Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. Today we are going to discuss about the nuclear weapons and why Ukraine gave up nuclear weapons, and also because people are talking these days that could this possibility, if Ukraine had already nuclear weapons, could this possibility or possession of nuclear weapons have or had prevented wars between Russia and Ukraine. So let us try and understand this particular topic in more detail. First of all, the context in which we are discussing this issue is recently because the Conference of Disarmament, which was held in Geneva, the Foreign Minister of Russia, Sergei Lavrov, has given a statement that the threat that the Volodymyr Zelensky regime, who is the president of Ukraine, poses to the neighboring countries and international security in general have increased significantly after the Kyiv authorities started dangerous games involving plans to obtain their own nuclear weapons. And actually, the Russian invasion of Ukraine is also justified by the political circles of the Kremlin on this particular ground, that possessing or having nuclear weapons in Ukraine could actually threaten the Russia as a state and the security of the state. Ukraine background, if you try to understand historically, possesses in the earlier time when it was part of USSR a Soviet nuclear technology, and thus Russia as of now believes that since they had this Soviet nuclear technology, even today Ukraine has capability of delivering these weapons or making up nuclear weapons. So let us try to understand how historically things have shaped up for Ukraine as far as the Ukraine's nuclear weapons or the possession of nuclear weapon is concerned. So we can trace back this to the historically year 1989, when we have the historical event when the Berlin Wall collapsed. Berlin Wall was damaged and it fell down, and then we have the unification of East Germany and the West Germany. Following this, Ukraine also went and started to travel on the path to its independence. Following year in 1990, the Ukraine declared a sovereignty pact, and as per this declaration of sovereignty, Ukraine has clearly said that it wants to become a non-nuclear and nuclear weapons free state and have a status of a non-nuclear weapon state in the NPT. Then in post 1990, however, once the Soviet Union collapsed and Ukraine became a separate independent nation, there was for certain times change in the sentiment of Ukrainian citizens, where public has started to believe that giving up the nukes or nuclear weapons is no longer necessary for its freedom. However, certain development has happened in post-independence of Ukraine, where this whole concept have undergone significant changes. So if you try to understand the nuclear capabilities that Ukraine possessed when in the early 1990s, basically it has 176 intercontinental ballistic missiles. Around 130 of those were liquid fuel SS-119s. About 46 of those missiles were solid fuel SS-24s, and it also had around 44 cruise missiles that is armed by strategic bombers. At the same time, its overall warhead inventory was in the early 2000, and apart from that, Ukraine also possesses 2,600 tactical nuclear weapons. However, as Ukraine wanted to become a non-nuclear state, the main question that arose was that whether these nuclear weapons will be transferred to the Russia, which was the main, we can say, the main nation or the biggest nation that broke out from the Soviet Union, or Belarus or Kazakhstan, because it was these three countries where the nuclear stations, or we can say nuclear arsenal, were established. The command control center was established in Moscow. However, the nuclear weapons were stationed in Russia, Belarus, as well as Kazakhstan. And here we have to understand this in the context of nuclear proliferation treaty, NPT, where the main objective of NPT was to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons and weapons technology, and also to promote cooperation in the peaceful uses of nuclear energy, so that the goal of achieving nuclear disarmament in general or complete disarmament of the countries on the global scale can be achieved. As of now, we have P5 countries which are the permanent member of United Nations Security Council, that is Russia, France, US, UK and China. So other than the 5 countries, all other signatories of the NPT have to be a non-nuclear state, or they must give up if they have nuclear weapons. Here I will want to try to bring your attention toward the India and Pakistan. These two countries are also believed to be a nuclear capable countries. However, they are not member of NPTs. However, if we try to again look at the Ukraine, so Ukraine actually did not want to embark, as it has recently gained independence in 1990s after the collapse of Soviet Union. It did not wanted to embark on its new journey with sanctions and isolation of the continent. It does not adhere to the terms of NPT, or it does not give up its nuclear weapons. So it is in this background of NPT that Ukraine decided to give up its nuclear weapon. And that is when we have a very historical memorandum or agreement that was signed, that is known as the Budapest Memorandum. It came in year, or it was signed in year 1994, when the Ukraine's membership in the NPT and its status as a non-nuclear country in return for security assurances were granted. Budapest Memorandum was actually followed. It was followed by Lisbon Protocol in 1992, and as per the Lisbon Protocol, it made three countries, that was Ukraine, Belarus, and Kazakhstan, all part of the Soviet Union earlier, parties to the first Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, also popularly called as a START Treaty. The main aim and objective of a START Treaty also was to decrease the number of nuclear warheads all this country possesses. As of now, the second START Treaty has been signed up between Russia and USA, where both countries have agreed to decrease the number of nuclear warheads each country have in their possession. The Budapest Memorandum was signed between three main countries. It was the President of Ukraine at that time, Leonid Kuchma, the US President Bill Clinton, and Russian President Boris Yeltsin. At the same time, since Britain was also the member of NPT and P5 group, the John Major, the then Prime Minister of Britain, was also involved there. Later on, when China and France joined NPT, they also became signatory to the Budapest Memorandum. Budapest Memorandum holds a very important place in the historical relationship that has developed between Soviet Union, the Western Alliance countries, and the Ukraine. So let us try to understand what were the major points or main points under this agreement. So 3 points stood out. The first was that all the signatories of the Budapest Memorandum decided that they will respect the independence and sovereignty of the existing borders of Ukraine. Second was, they also obliged that they will refrain from using or threat of using any kind of force against Ukraine with respect to its sovereignty as well as territorial integrity. The third most important point of this agreement was that member states decided that they will not use any kind of weapons against Ukraine, any kind of nuclear weapons especially against Ukraine, except when it comes to the matter of self-defense, or otherwise if it is necessary in accordance with the Charter of United Nations. And this is where it gets interesting, because the recent invasion of Russia by Ukraine is based on this particular ground. That they said that they have invaded Ukraine or have a war with Ukraine because Russia is acting in self-defense. Why it is acting in self-defense? Because it is believed that Ukraine wanted to become or wants to become a member of European Union as well as NATO in future, and that will bring the NATO forces or NATO arms and artilleries very near to the close to the Russia border, and that is why Russia is acting in self-defense. Apart from these 3 major points of this Budapest Agreement, one more assurance was given to the Ukraine by these signatory countries. That was, the member nations will seek immediate United Nations Security Council action to provide assistance to the Ukraine, whether it is a military assistance, or whether it is a logistic assistance, or it is a humanitarian assistance, if Ukraine ever is threatened by or attacked with the nuclear weapons. However, this is not a concrete agreement, this was not a guarantee, but this was believed to be the assurance. These 3 were the guarantee, and this 4th one was the assurance given by the signatory states. Later on, the development happened based on these particular agreements, the both Lisbon Protocol as well as the Budapest Agreement, that in year 1996, Ukraine handed over all its nuclear arsenals to the Russia. And in terms of that, because of this, Russia has to pay a hefty $1 billion for taking control of nuclear weapons of Ukraine. Not only that, US also paid a very massive sum to Ukraine so that it can buy Ukraine's stockpile of enriched uranium. However, this whole Budapest Agreement, or this memorandum that was signed by the signatory countries, lasted for almost 20 years, when in 2014, the first breakdown, or we can say violation of Budapest Agreement happened from the Russia side when it annexed Crimea in year 2014. Further, the development that has happened both from the Western side has actually shaken the confidence of Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, in the intention of Ukraine as well as West. The development that has happened was, first of all, the Western countries, especially led by United Nations, agreed that they will involve in persistent rotational military presence in the Baltic states as well as other NATO member countries in the Europe. Also, they launched a European Reassurance Initiative of almost $4 billion in value, when the President of United States has asked Congress to approve this budget so that they can take certain measures to protect the interest of NATO allies across or around the border of the Russia. In these terms, the US presidents and US leadership has said that they want to establish, we can say, command and control center. They want to establish ground forces and also air forces across the around this Ukrainian border as well as Russian border, so that they can take actions or preemptive actions if any country is threatened in future by the Russian military invasion. This is something that has been referred by Russia and especially the President Putin as an encirclement of Russia, because NATO members are continuously expanding eastward and encircling Russian border from various sides. And it is on this basis that Russia has said that it is a threat to its security, and that is why it wants to justify the war it has waged both in 2014, the Crimea, and as well as the recent war that is going on in the Ukraine. So, on conclusion, what we can say that all these actions of Russia has actually, or West actually has put Putin has put Russia's nuclear force on a special alert due to these developments, and the move has been justified as a response to aggressive statements given by the West and the NATO members. However, recently also Russia's nuclear submarines have participated in the drills, and however, all this development is kind of seems like escalatory in nature, where countries around the world can join and can have a nuclear war that can also lead to World War III. However, Russia, along with all other countries of the world, peaceful countries of the world, also would be hoping that Putin would not go as far as to use any nuclear weapons either over Ukraine or any other member states of the NATO. So that is all about this particular issue. We understood that how and why Ukraine has to give up, or what was the ground on which Ukraine had to give up its nuclear arsenal, and that is because also recently, due to this devastating war that has been waged by Russia and Ukraine, many members or many politicians of Ukraine also and all around the world too are expecting or were hoping that if nuclear weapon were present in Ukraine, the Russia would not have dared to wage a war against this. However, you also have an exception, because if you try to understand, in 1999 war that had happened between India and Pakistan, at that time both countries were nuclear armed countries. However, both countries did not escalate their confrontation, the war, up to the nuclear state, and India won the war just on the basis of conventional military achievements. So that is all for today. We'll come again soon with another interesting topic. Till then, take care. Thank you very much.